welcome everyone to our first ever masterclass. So it's a new event type by the PreSales Collective, something we're trying out. We're going to run these on a bi-monthly basis. So every other month, we're going to come together virtually, talk through a skill, an important piece to pre-sales. And then the idea of these is we have kind of 15 to 20 minutes of presentation or instruction side. And then everyone divides up into breakout rooms to talk amongst yourselves about the topic, get to know each other, do some networking. So a way for all of us in pre-sales to learn a little bit and then get to know each other as well. So our agenda for today, we'll start off with just a little intro here. And then as I said, we'll go through about 15 minutes of presentation. Today, it's all about making discovery more effective. And then we'll go into our breakout sessions. We've given you a few question prompts. Don't feel like that's the only thing you can discuss. If you have something that you hear from Bob that's like, oh, can you believe that? What do you think of that? By all means, we're not here to dictate exactly what you have to talk about. And then my last point here on the breakout sessions, you are welcome to stay in those as long as you want. I will close the meeting up a few minutes before the top of the hour. But if you're in one of the smaller breakout rooms and you've had a great discussion and you feel like you've talked about everything you want to, feel free to drop early. We're not going to pull everybody back into the main room for a final conversation. All right, with that, we'll get started. Again, I mentioned today, it's all about tips for making your discovery more effective. And we have a great speaker that I want to introduce in case you're not familiar with Bob already. Over the years, we've all heard a variety of speakers and trainers. Some of those have been motivational, others come and talk about best practices, others talk about very general skills. But our speaker today, he's very different. So Bob and his firm, 2Win, if you're not familiar, they help pre-sales professionals improve their careers through winning discovery, demos, storytelling, and executive conversation strategies and techniques. So I do want to formally introduce Robert Riefstahl. Bob is the founder of 2Win and the author of 2 books. The global best-selling book, Demonstrating to Win. If you haven't read that in pre-sales, you're doing yourself a disservice. And his latest release, Rule of 24. So Bob's firm is the largest global training and consulting company that specializes in helping technology-based pre-sales professionals like us. Bob spent the first half of his career working for a variety of companies in the software and technology space. And his last position was actually vice president of sales for a major software company. So during this session, Bob's going to cover some practical suggestions on what his firm refers to as Agile discovery. And with that, let me turn it over to Bob.
Well, thank you very much, Kevin. The picture you see in front of you is a tablet, like a stone tablet. And as often as the case, there are certain rules, if you will, that seem like they're written in stone. And I've seen this over the years. I mean, I profess these for years and years, and they are number one, no demos will be performed without discovery. There's a lot of pre-sales leadership that'll espouse this. They'll say, we don't want you to do demos without discovery. And the second one that's written in stone is the belief that demos with discovery have minimal surprises, right? You don't get surprised like you do if you don't have discovery. Here's where I believe we're at today. Yeah, welcome to 2022. Those rules written in stone are not the reality that our client base across the world is dealing with. It's not that I'm suggesting that you throw the rules out and cast the stone aside and say, oh no, we don't care if we get discovery or not. Of course, a demo is better with discovery. The challenge is, even if you get discovery, there's often a lot of information that is underknown. In the past, you could have discovery and clients were a little bit more welcoming to allow you to interview lots of people. We've seen the trend where all of that gets funneled into, the sponsor or just a couple of people. They represent everybody else. And the information that you receive may or may not be complete or accurate. And I'm sure many of you find yourselves, and this would be great discussion in your breakout rooms, where you're in situations where this underknown discovery reveals itself, even though you thought you had discovery in the demo, when the stakeholders in the demo start asking you, does your software do this? Oh, that makes me think of this. Can you do that? Can you show me this? It's just the reality. I mean, even the people you spoke to in discovery, all of a sudden, all these thoughts come into mind because you're giving a good demo that's prompting their imagination, if you will, and they want you to show them more. So my point in today's session isn't so much how you ask questions, the best kind of questions, should be open-ended or closed-ended. It's not about that. My discussion topic for today has everything to do with, in the moment of the demo, when people start saying, hey, can you show us how you do this? There's a fork, two paths, if you will, in the road. If you are deep in product knowledge, you've been with the company for a while, you've demoed the product to a lot of different people and organizations, there's most certainly a temptation in that fork in the road. There's a temptation, and I don't know if you can advance the slide here or not for the build, but there's a temptation to just start to demo. The other option is to drop into what we refer to as Agile discovery, or discovery on the fly. And we would encourage you, even if you know your product in depth, even if you've heard this request many times before, that you drop into at least a little mini discovery here, so that you can listen for a true understanding of what it is they want to see and what's behind that request. Like, understand a little bit more about it. Then you can respond with purpose. And the response might be a demo. Like you may then go over and show that functionality, but your decision might be to defer it. It might be to tell a customer story. There could be, a number of responses to that situation. So what this requires is a little bit of patience, and a little bit of skill, right? Of recognizing the situation, asking a couple of questions, and going into a discovery mode. What we have learned in our global work with large clients, mid-sized clients around the world, is this style of discovery is less like a formal discovery method, because quite frankly, the stakeholders aren't going to have patience for you to drop into full discovery mode. It resembles more question and objection handling. It's, by the way, it's not suggesting that they are objecting to something that you've shown, although they may be. But my point is, when somebody says, hey, does your software do this? Can you show me? This is an opportunity for you to drop into question handling mode. That'll help you listen for understanding and then determine how you want to respond. So we have a process that we follow and that we work with clients on, specifically for this discovery on the fly or agile discovery approach. And that process follows this. And I'm not going to go into a full teach on this. I'll just go through it briefly. But the idea here is, make sure you listen for understanding. A lot of times, even if you think you've heard this question or request many times before, it can be useful to paraphrase what you heard. Then you can clarify to make sure you understand what it is they're really interested in seeing and what's behind that. Now, if it's an objection, we recommend across cultures that you go ahead and empathize with their concern, because that shows that you're listening, and then validate you have a full understanding. Now you can decide what to do from there. So let's go through some examples of what I mean. Paraphrase. Paraphrase is reflecting back what you're hearing to confirm that understanding. And it's as simple as, what I think you're looking for here is, and you paraphrase it. Don't reflect exactly what they said. Don't just repeat what they said. But what you're trying to do is gain a deeper understanding of what's the energy behind the request. And what are they trying to accomplish? Like, what's their current state, and what is it that they really want to do in the future? And is there any impact to the organization? That part of it, the impact and the value and all that, you have to use your professional judgment as to how far you go into this paraphrasing. But this paraphrasing, really good things happen. One, it shows the person that you really are listening. Hey, people appreciate that. It also gives you the understanding you need to determine how it is, if you're going to demo, how it is you're going to demo, and how you'll actually use a use case in that little demo sequence. And quite frankly, it gives you a little bit of thinking time as to where you're going to go with this request. The second step is this clarify. So if they ask it, not so much a specific, do you have this feature, but a little bit more of a question about how a process might work, or something a little bit deeper and broader, it's really important to clarify at that point. Again, the energy behind the request, and make sure you have a complete understanding of what it is they want to see in this process going forward. That clarification keeps you out of trouble from jumping in, showing some functionality, and then finding out that isn't at all what they were looking for. So that helps you with a deeper understanding of their request. It's things like, well, when you say you're interested in this, do you mean you want to go through the process in order to improve this? And they may come back and say, that's exactly what we're looking for. Or they may say, no, that's not exactly it. What we're really looking for, that's a great thing to have happen, is for them to give you that clarification that you didn't quite have it right. And they gave you clarification of what it is that they're really looking for. When that happens, you're really glad you asked the question and went a little deeper with it. I'm sure many of you have been there, right? It helps you understand that real question or concern. Now, these are just examples, going through, obviously within your culture, your language, everything else, you'll do it however you would normally do it. But the point is to follow some methodology or processes to how you do discovery on the fly like this. The empathy part of it, again, that typically goes back to objections, but it could in fact be about the process. So if they asked about you demoing a process to them or some functionality, and you clarify what it is they're trying to accomplish and the pain behind, the energy and pain behind why they really want this changed, this is a good opportunity to empathize with them, to say, boy, I can appreciate why you'd be interested in seeing that, or I can appreciate why that's a concern, right? That is often stated in, I see that you feel this way about it. Again, you change your phraseology that fits you best. But that professional empathy really opens a pathway to your response. Then you can validate. So let me make sure I've got this right. And you may be using a soft whiteboard, like a tablet in your hand, again, if you're still virtual, to get all this right. And you're simply going to validate do I have this right? And they say yes. Now you've got what you need with discovery on the fly, that agile moment. Now you have what you need in order to decide what you're going to do with this request. It might be demo. It might not be. So, we want to talk about that a little bit. So the validation step, it just has a way, if it's an objection, of disarming the situation. If it's a request, it's a way of making sure you've got a full understanding. Okay. So now you have what you need from listening and having understanding to how you're going to respond. And there's three options. You could do what we refer to as a pivot response. A pivot response is, we'll talk about that in a moment, but it could be you're not going to demo, but you're going to give an example of how another customer solved the same thing, because you can't demo it today. You don't have the software configured for it. You don't have a use case. You don't know how to demo it. There could be any number of reasons why you didn't want to demo, but you wanted to use a customer example, like a story, as we call it a limbic response, that part of the brain that helps people kind of open up their minds and listen for the understanding. It could be a straight response. You just go in and demo, or you could defer it. Decide not to demo at all. Take that down as an action item for follow-up. So you have choices here. You don't always have to go into the demo. And as you know, you can't always. So the pivot response, again, as I mentioned, can incorporate a customer story into the response. So you could answer it with, that reminds me, we had another customer had a similar request. Here's how we solved it with them. Here's what the results were of that. I can't demo that today, but I can absolutely put that in a video and a follow-up to you and show you how that's actually accomplished. Would that work? Right? That's an option. Or you could go in and actually do the story and then do the demo. You don't want to do this too often. It takes too much time and you've got other items you need to get to, but it's certainly an option. You could, as I mentioned before, do a straight response, very common. Yeah, let me show you how that works. And you do the demo. Okay. You could decide to defer. Here's the thing. You could you might very well have the capability to demo it, but that if you demo this right now into this person, it's going to take everything off track. You're going to go into a completely different area, and strategically speaking, this person doesn't really matter that much in the decision, so you decide to defer. Could we show that if we have time at the end? Could I send you a video follow-up of that, or set up a follow-up meeting? The point being, deferrals sometimes can be very strategic, right? Even though you know how to show it, this is not a contest of knowledge. It's an opportunity to make sure that your demo stays on track, it stays strategic, and you can accomplish what you need to accomplish in the time you've been allotted. So that's a thought process, if you will, for how you might do discovery on the fly and some of the options you have in the demo when you have underknown information, or you have a salesperson that brought you in and it's a really important deal and and you didn't have discovery, even though your management believes in no demos without discovery. You're probably, many of you find yourself in that situation anyway. So these are some options to attend to those requests, right? Discovery on the fly, or agile discovery. So in your breakout rooms, I'll turn it over to Kevin. One of the things is, if you want me to join a breakout room, I'll be happy to do it. Just send a chat in the session. And what breakout room you're in, I'll be happy to join your discussion. But, that's essentially a real brief as to some of what we talk about in our discovery course, right? An element of it is discovery on the fly. So Kevin, back to you.
Yeah, thanks, Bob. So first off, just any questions that people want to throw at Bob before we go to breakouts?